My name is Christopher Merrill, and as the director of the International Writing Program at the University of Iowa, it's my pleasure to welcome you to this Friday panel series as of the IWP Fall Residency. For those of you who are new to our programming, we've given our writers a topic to consider and present to you today. Copies of their précis will be available next week on our website, iwp.uiowa.edu, or they're on the seats of the people here at the Iowa City Public Library. And at that same website, you can find the writers' biographies and writing samples, as well as a schedule of upcoming events. You can also find this information by scanning the QR code on the bookmarks available in the back of the room. After the writers make their presentations, we will open it up for questions and discussion. Please wait until Ida can get to you with the microphone so that our audience at home will be able to hear what the questions and the comments are. And before I introduce this panel, I want to say just a word of thanks, first to the staff here at the Iowa City Public Library, which makes this space available to us, and then to the Dean of International Programs, Russ Ganem, who makes possible the food in the back. That's for those of you who are watching at home. Next week, come and enjoy pizza and other delicacies. And now for today's panel, Future Perfect. Is there any room for optimism? Our format for every panel is the same. I'll introduce all the writers going down the list. They'll each give a brief presentation, and then we'll open it up to questions. To my left, we have Tzveta Sofronieva, who's the author of over 20 books of poetry, short stories, and essays, as well as literary installations, art, translations, and plays. Born in Sofia, Bulgaria, and currently a resident of Berlin, Sofronieva earned her master's degrees in both theoretical physics and in the history of science, followed by a doctorate in philosophy, a poetry masterclass taught by Joseph Brodsky, and several postdoctoral fellowships at the University of Cambridge, the Technical University, and the Institute for Advanced Study in Berlin. She has written about such varied fields and subjects as quantum mechanics, transplantation and translation, multilingualism, education, and creative writing. She is dedicated to the practice of multilingual literature. Her plays, including Saga About the Open Court and Scenes at Dawn, have been performed in many places, including the Emergency Theater in Sofia. Among her many books are Multiverse, and a collection of poems originally written in German whose title is translated as A Handful of Water, which won the Cliff Becker Prize in Translation in 2012. She's been translated into many languages, and she participates in the IWP Fall Residency courtesy of the Max Kade Foundation. Next to Tzveta is Senka Marić, who is a fiction writer, poet, essayist, and editor from Bosnia-Herzegovina. She holds a degree in comparative literature and drama arts and is the author of 3 books of poems, most recently one whose title is translated as Until the Next Death, and novels whose titles are translated as Body Kintsugi and Gravities. The former received the 2018 Meša Selimović Award for Best Novel in Bosnia-Herzegovina, Serbia, Croatia, and Montenegro, the English Pen Translation Award in 2022, and was shortlisted for the 2023 EBRD Literature Prize. Gravities received the 2022 Štefica Cvek Award for feminist writing. Her short stories and poetry have been awarded many times over in the region of ex-Yugoslavia, and she has also received the Knight of Poetry European Award in 2013. Her work focuses on issues concerning female subjects and female existence, while also exploring the playful and expressive limits of language. She's the editor-in-chief of the online literary magazine Strane.ba, which daily publishes new writings from Bosnia and Herzegovina, Serbia, Croatia, and Montenegro. Her participation was made possible in the Fall Residency by the Bureau of Educational and Cultural Affairs, at the U.S. Department of State. And finally, we have Iya Kiva, who was born in the city of Donetsk. She received her master's degree from the Faculty of Philology of the Donetsk National University in Ukraine, named after Vasil Stush, with an additional speciality in cultural science. In 2014, after the Russian occupation of Donetsk, she moved to Kyiv and now lives in Lviv. Both of Kiva's poetry collections, whose titles are translated as Further from Heaven 2018 and The First Page of Winter 2019, were included in PEN Ukraine's lists of the best books of their respective years. The latter also received a special award from the jury of the Lit Accent Award in 2019. Her 2021 collection of interviews with Belarusian writers, We Will Wake Up Different, was included in a list of important nonfiction books by The Village Ukraine, and again, PEN Ukraine's list of the year's best books. She has been the recipient of a 2021 Gauda Polonia Fellowship from the Ministry of Culture of Poland and a participant in the 2022 Nest Writers Residency. One main theme of her poetry is how to experience time and how we find words to describe not only private but also historical time. Her participation in the Fall Residency is made possible by an anonymous gift to IWP. And with that, I'll turn it over to Tzveta.
The skies are pierced by the eyes of telescopes in the anxiety of mobile phones. We haven't yet found lumps for the inherited garbage of crashed satellites, but we persistently scout the relationships of binary stars and pry into who goes into gravitational holes to fertilize the universe. We discover a planet that resembles ours, X million light years away, with water and temperatures between 1300 degrees. We find fungus spores in the clouds of interplanetary spaces. Emotions are modulated every day in our hearts. And I'm not sure if this hurts the skies or if they enjoy it. I simply continue to write letters. But I'm certainly not sending them to aliens. Not yet. Not today.
Yes, so this was one of my poems, the beginning of a more future cycle that was done together with AI and with Bulgarian artist, composer Ivo Spasov and director Georgi Tenev. And the question to AI was what is important for the future. But as I end this poem, I'm writing letters not to aliens, but to you. I think all my writings are letters to somebody. And looking at the future perfect, I also like to look at dictionaries. So I was looking at the dictionary, and the Merriam-Webster dictionary describes the word perfect as the excellence of every element or quality of a thing, frequently as an unattainable state, and explains that, as the verb tense, it is used to refer to an action or state that is completed at the time of speaking or at the time spoken of. The word future is defined in the same dictionary as the time that is to come, but also in its original use from the 14th century as the time after death. It seems that future has two important features. One, it has something to do with the fear of death. And two, it is constantly there, continuously happening. Each moment we speak, we have already entered it many times. Nowadays, many of us fear for life on Earth, not only for our lives as individuals. We have shaped our world into a form irreversibly damaged, and we have a word for this, Anthropocene. Within the limited space of our irreplaceable planet, while resources dwindle amidst a growing thirst for their possession and the ruthless struggle to redistribute them, in conjunction with crises in climate and energy sources, in a time of misunderstandings and drifting apart paradigms and languages, rampant nationalism and wars, loss of democratic elements we believe to be already well established, turning the planet into a garbage dump and establishing money as the only measure of life, as if people eat money, sleep on money, pee money, and so on, humanity seems to suffer the neurotic anxiety of a hyperactive, unaware, and unrestrained teenager. In our hyper-performative age, image displaces reality, and indifference grows in tandem to a thirst for performance and self-staging, for the medialization of everything that happens to the point of a total neutralization of meaning. Fear seems to have taken over to such an extent that we have begun to ignore it. What happens to us, humans, and inside us, while we increase our energy needs, continue to pretend we are the center of the universe, manufacture artificial brains, have fake fun, and look to Mars for survival? Flights to the planet Mars, how naive, and a cruel tribute to Mars, the ancient god of war, fogged by adrenaline. Why is that? In fact, no matter how we think about politics, in our everyday life we allow ourselves to be seduced by the invitations of crazy politicians and businessmen to take part in humanity's suicide. In a hybrid, funny translingual chapbook in which I look for answers, I propose the word Anthropocene. Because the Earth does not care much for our habits and geological strata definitions. After all, if we destroy ourselves, it's no different than getting killed by a meteorite, supervolcano, a blackout of the sun, AI, or alien invasion. In each case, nature merrily morphs from one form to another. We are nothing but nature in one of its stages, whatever self-organizing or created. But we still wish it wasn't that simple. And here is where poetry comes. And poetry, I mean all the arts and our attempts in humanities and literature. The human craving for performance, our need for a stage, all our social conflicts which emerge from the despair that is inherent to the loss of life-sustaining conditions. These cry out for comfort, for narration, for imagination, for artistic skill, and for analytical insight, all combined into constructive criticism. Poetry can reflect the danger that we emanate upon ourselves, the exponential increase of this danger, its anonymity, and the indifference that births it. Poetry can outline futures in the plural and culminate in a multilingual choir with an honest approach towards technology and cultural representation. We finally get a chance to distinguish between a sharp photo of a clouds and a picture that shows something foggy not because of the weather, but because the photo itself is out of focus. The reading of the past and the present depends on visions of the future. The past is graphic with different parameters which we must and can analyze and depart from together. It is not the coordinate system for the future, though. We do write anew old cultural narratives now, bring unheard voices into sound precisely because we want a future of fairness and respect. We increasingly feel the life-saving need for multilingual senses and emotional knowledge. There are no perfect times, and we learn to live in the irreversible state of the hatreds and catastrophes we have already created. But if an acceptable future is our leading concept, we might still demythologize the past and shape the present accordingly. Good. And after you have seen this, it's not easy to read, but it's in my book, so you can have it. I want to end with another small audio. To see what AI means is important. And AI are all of us.
Detector of dark matter Comoludens loves toys, plasma balls, flashes of light, embracing. Gravity turns galaxies into universes, so teamwork plays a role, after all. We constantly prefer to play against each other. Soon we will face a switch in the game, but exactly when is 95% secret. So secrets
frame our world.
After all.
It's all drifting apart.
Curiosity and dark ambition
are driving it.
Still everything stays connected.
Embedded in the dark substance of our wishes.
Documented by the aesthetic censor.
I mean, we are so used with images that everybody was looking at the screen while there was audio only. So it's also part of my talk. Thank you very much.
I guess I'm on, just to make sure, because I'm not really loud when I speak. Okay. We good now? Yes? Yes. Okay. What do we mean when we talk about the future? Are we talking about an abstract concept, a dimension of time, unreachable, unobtainable, always just an idea, never possibility in existence? Unlike the past, which is something we've all developed many healthy and unhealthy ways of reviving, reliving, and often staying stuck in. Sorry. The future is reached only by creating new content, the reification of our fears or desires. It exists solely in the imagination. In a sense, the concept of the future very much resembles the concept of desire in the way Lacan, Zizek, and many other philosophers have talked about it. Desire can never be fulfilled. The moment you're about to reach it, it is gone. Bit of a Sisyphean fate. It might be just the difference between the and a in English, but are we talking about the anticipation of a time guaranteed? We'll all be here. Our Earth will not stop rotating. Its poles won't shift. We won't run out of fresh water. Sun and moon forever in its places. Plants and animals too. Oceans and the air, of course. Is that all we need? Don't we all also want our lives to be happy, if not perfect? And no wars, armed conflicts, racism, misogyny, fascism? And don't we want the most passionate, most gentle love? To read all the books ever written? Have all the time to do it? I know I'm drifting, but it is seductive to even start thinking this way. I'm talking about human nature, which is a different subject, but at least not unrelated. When and how to draw the line against expectations. It is not possible to talk about the future without talking about reality. But how does one measure reality, differentiating what is from what is not? How can we be sure anything is real? I was 27 when I saw the movie The Matrix, and since then it has never left me. The dreadful feeling of maybe. We still don't even know the oceans. How can we even begin to comprehend the vastness and meaning and organizing forces of the universe? Socrates was a smart man. He said, "All I know is that I know nothing." Let that be a disclaimer notice for everything that I'm saying. Let's assume what we witness in different aspects of our lives tells us something about where we are and where we are going. In this day and age, many people create the image of the world on the basis of social media. Instagram is saying everything is peachy and rosy. Facebook is a bit tired of putting on a brave face. Maybe that's only my friends and the people I follow. Custom-made, altered reality. I prefer TikTok. Random people, and it's already doomsday there. Time travelers from the future warning us about impending disasters. Zombie deer arriving in cities. Flesh-eating fungus spreading in US coastal areas. Everything seems to be happening in the US. The Simpsons have predicted everything long ago. The end is certainly here. Volcanoes, superstorms, superfloods, super dries. Alien invasion, of course. No need for super. It's enough just that they come at all. Then lists and tips on how to become the best prepper. I could go on forever. All of it is just a small upgrade of the imagination in comparison to the things that are already happening. In the meantime, the world powers are shifting. There are international corporations taking over. BRICS must mean something. There is a war in Ukraine. Many conflicts across Africa. Why should we care? It has nothing to do with us. We don't stop to ask who us is. There was COVID. Is it coming again? Media is urging us in that direction. We know we are puppets, and yet, what can we possibly do? When I was 19, the war started in my country. I fled to UK and returned to a completely destroyed city, I thought just for a visit, in 1997. And I never went back to London. Crazy, I know, but when I arrived in my home, there was this beautiful, serene, hopeful atmosphere of a future ahead of us. The war was over, and we thought the greatest of times were coming. All the pain had not been in vain. Do I even need to say such a future was never delivered? The war that was over nearly 30 years ago is still as present as ever in all aspects of our lives. And this is where we come to literature. If nothing else, literature teaches us that since the beginning of time, people have felt they have come to the end. More of this is not possible. The future is lost forever. And yet, we remain. Thank you.
I try to do something. I want to say thanks to my colleagues. Our essays with Senka are very similar in with understanding our life, but my two favorite topics are crisis of love and time. And Tzveta already told us about this crisis of love. And I will read about time. As a writer, I consider the main task of poetry to be hearing and feeling of time, and the attempt to find appropriate words for it, because each time has its own vocabulary, its own language, its own intonations. But what is it with time in which I live? All my life, I've lived among conversations about the past, repressed history and private memory, the stolen 20th century. That's how Ukrainians talk about their lost chance to gain their own statehood 100 years ago. Moderate Ukrainian culture, Holodomor, the Holocaust, war, deportations, another war again. While our closest neighbors are discussing with certain of the challenges of the climate crisis, Ukrainians are trying to tell their own story in their own words, from the point of view of Ukrainian subjectivity and agency. Like any people with a long history of enslavement, we know well what it's like not to have a voice, even at the level of the right to our own language, because Russia as an empire banned the Ukrainian language for centuries. And when it did not officially ban it, it tried to convince Ukrainians that our culture was provincial and rustic, and the language is ridiculous, peasant class, and second-rate. All these conversations are tiring. Talking about these topics again and again, you feel like a dog on a chain, which drags the boss to which it's chained everywhere it goes, making incredible noise. All these conversations are like chewing gum, which we transfer from mouth to mouth, as if giving ourselves artificial respiration. And we cannot spit it out, get rid of it, overcome it. Today, perhaps for the first time in my life, I live in the present tense. It would seem that this is a step forward towards the future, the dreamed future, but it turns out that living in the present time is terribly uncomfortable, because the wind of history is like the wind from the Judean desert in winter. It's icy, eerie, and constantly knocks you down. It turns out that even one step into the future is taken with blood, sweat, tears, and pain. And being a witness and a participant to the moment when the clock of history freezes on the threshold between winter and summer is not a very pleasant job. War really stops time. Living in Ukraine today, you cannot plan any further future in advance when one day no Ukrainian falling asleep at night can be sure that he will wake up in the morning. And Ukrainian children, our embodied future, don't have the opportunity to get a normal education because during every air raid they have to go down to the shelters. Of course, we have built underground classrooms for them, as for example we have done in the Kharkiv metro, but do these conditions contribute to full development of their personality, the mastery of new knowledge, and allow for fair competition with those who have had the opportunity to study normally? Today, the horizon of Ukrainians' future is literally like a bad amateur photograph. Peering into it, you see darkness, in which you can hear the hum of an Iranian shahed or the rustle of Russian rocket. Because it turns out that even when it seems that the future is already here, but is already standing in the entryway of our house and knocking on the door, just behind it stands our past. It turns out that our past is a sniper, constantly aiming at our backs when we try to escape from it, like escaping from a ghetto or prison. A sniper with the passport of a citizen of the Russian Federation. Because Russia's war against Ukraine is a war for the past, which has only one goal, to make the past great again, despite the fact that this past was a life without rights, in a concentration camp measuring 22.4 million square kilometers. Living in Ukraine today is like running in place, hoping that one day you will finally see the finish line. Or as though they have fallen into a river, where they are swimming and drowning at the same time, desperately gasping for air, with lips cracked by fatigue. Tiredness is the word that conveys the feeling of our time today. Fatigue is the word that will convey the feeling of time in Ukraine tomorrow. Because even after the war, we will face endless economic, social, environmental, psychological, and health problems that many generations to come will have to deal with. Fighting for the future and living in this chosen future is hardly possible at the same time. But do we have a choice? On the one hand, we have no choice. On the other hand, Ukrainians have already made this choice. They chose freedom, independence or this. Volia або смерть. What's what the Ukrainian Cossacks used to say when they went to fight. This is what we descendants, say today, confirming our own responsibility for the choice we've made. Yes, Ukrainians are not living the lives we dreamed of during childhood. Someone volunteering in the rear or in the first line, someone dying and being wounded in the front. When I think about this, I remember Margaret Garner from Toni Morrison's Beloved, who killed her child so that this child would never grow up to become a slave like her. Ukrainians need no explanation to know why she did it. The Russian-Ukrainian war has been going on for 9 years now, and I'm writing about it. Sometimes it seems to me that this topic has captured me, and I will never be able to free myself from it. But the age in which I live is a time of war, suffering, and pain. So I just try to do my job honestly. Because even you can choose the time you live in. The freedom to choose the words to describe the time is already of a great value, already a great privilege. I don't know if this freedom of writing gives hope for a better future, but at least it allows me to describe the present and give future generations the right to choose whether they want to live in the world I live in today.
Very good. Wow. Yeah.
Those were dazzling presentations. Thank you so very much. And before we open it up to questions, again, Ida will be going around with the microphone. I want to tell you about some upcoming events. Join us later today at 5 o'clock for our weekly Shamba House reading series. The writers Xi Yifang and Wang Zhanei, both from the People's Republic of China, will read from their work. This Sunday, September 17th at 4 p.m., please join us at Prairie Lights for the reading series we have there. Readings will be by Sunis Nathaniel, who is from Nigeria, Kevin Chen, who is from Taiwan, and Hadri Kolmilia, who is an MFA candidate studying fiction at the University of Iowa. Afterward, that same Sunday, our Cinematheque series will screen the Brazilian film Bacurau at 7 o'clock in the Adler Journalism Building, room 105. This screening will be hosted by Raoul de Jong and will be followed by a brief Q&A. And finally, join us next Friday, September 22nd. This will be one of the first events of the Iowa City Book Festival for a panel discussion featuring Mansoura Ez Eldin, Ali Al-Shali, and University of Iowa professor Lauren Glass, who will discuss the, quote, specter of professionalism, close quote. I should emphasize that unlike our other panels so far, this one will take place in room 304 of the English Philosophy Building. That's the Gerber Lounge in EPB, and there will not be a streaming option. So with that, let me open it up to questions or comments. This is that long and pregnant silence.
Pregnant. Pregnant silence is such a good word.
This is, all three of you were wonderful. My question is about connecting the Anthropocene to time. Like most people, after they get to a certain age, we start worrying about wrinkles. So I was just thinking whether, like, how people worry about wrinkles, how would time worry about wrinkles? Because the past that you're talking about becomes the future, whereas at least in the human's past, we were actually young and beautiful. We don't look forward to the future, whereas, like, you know, with time, we're asking the time to look better in the future.
Senka, do you want to take that on?
Yeah, I could also say something about it.
Senka, then Tzveta?
Sure. Yeah, Tzveta, you want to do it?
Well, if you look, sorry, I'm a physicist, but if you do like this to the lamp, you will see between your two fingers black and white, the intervention. I have a feeling that time is a little bit like that. In personal life and also in the life of humanity, you have these whiter and very dark stripes. So it's kind of interferential of what we do. But I mean, here is just wonderfully talking about that we experience, and it has to do with the Anthropocene that I define, with our, I mean, these guys who make this war, they bring the past back because they want to have power, they want to exhibit themselves. They want a kind of, they don't care, you know, about the rest of everybody. So, I mean, it is what, I think what she was telling is that these black stripes come in the time, all the time, because of this kind of not enough demythologizing, as I was putting in the past, not kind of departing from the past. Or what do you say? I think that was so clear in her talk, actually. Senka, do you want to say something more?
Okay. So whether you want to say something, you don't understand?
What is the sense of question?
Okay, I'll say a few things and maybe. Okay, to me, I guess you were talking because you didn't understand, like, of the way we understand time and, like, the wrinkles in time, like a parallel ways we age with the way time treats us. So, for me personally, I don't think at all I understand concept of time, like as dimensional that really exists. Or it doesn't, I don't really know. I think the only thing we can actually witness is our own bodies changing and decaying. And we have to put some sense in it. So, like, we measure it by time, we measure the length of our life, and we measure everything by the time passed. But how is that real? Do we actually exist in all these moments simultaneously, like consciously aware of the one? I mean, there are like so many different philosophies, not really philosophies, but theories is more better to say on it. So I really have no idea, but the only thing I do know is that I am here now, probably. I mean, I have this idea that I'm present. So I just want to make the best of it. Wrinkles or no wrinkles in me or time.
If I cut you at Kamplatz, you are here. Yeah, but she was saying how you think that the past comes.
I don't know how I feel time, not with wrinkles, because, for example, I have problem with my house from my 18, and now I'm like my people in my age. All conversations about house are normally after 40, but at 18, you like loser, you like, we like, outsider in these conversations, and I, all my life, I had to hide my problems. I'm not sure that I can feel time from private perspective. Many years I can understand how old person in front of me. I studied to see with wrinkles, and I don't know, gray hair, but I have deep feeling of this social time, this historical time. Yes. And then now I'm really hated. We have very popular with how to write in dark times, how to smile in dark times, how to think in dark times. Can you tell me, please, where we in Ukraine had not dark times?
Yes.
All my life, I hear that in future we have reforms of our Jewish system, or something better and better and better and better. I don't know. It's not normal situation when we are waiting for future. But we have many problems with our past.
In our present.
And with presence, no, it's normally, but Other abnormal situation when you live in this presence, because usually people don't live in one time. You have your remembrance, you can journey from past time to future to present. You have not only your private history, history of your family, of your, I don't know, land or society where you are now. And it's normal. And now our time in Ukraine is closed. We like children who made something bad and closed in this dark
I don't know if the past is so important. I mean, I give you a very simple example. I have an allergy of garlic. So I was asking some friends that we do some cooking next week because I have a birthday here, and we don't use garlic. And then, of course, in the main dishes of all over the world, and I'm Bulgarian, so I was cooking with garlic all my life until 6 years ago. These recipes say you have to put this garlic in it because otherwise it doesn't have taste. But you know, for me, it is a past thing. My present now doesn't allow garlic, okay? So my future are recipes that will not include garlic. And I mean, thinking on the level of society, if we say, what the hell, all these old narratives are important to the level we know them and remain mythologies, we don't need to all the time think to make things like before, make America, Russia, whatever, killing each other all the time or whatever, and mostly the whites were killing the others. I mean, of course you have to remember that so that we don't repeat it, but then please forget about it. What is the present now? What are the resources now? What are the things to solve now? How we can think, it's horrible in Ukraine, but it's horrible in Africa where people are also starving because of these conflicts. So I mean, if we look what is now and what we want to do tomorrow, what is going to be for the kids, are they going to survive? Then we maybe solve some problems because the past is bringing us with kind of heavy feeling that we're victims. Everybody thinks is a victim, every culture thinks for some reason. So if we think it as something that gave us lessons and that's it, it's over. So what we're going to do now from now on for the future, whatever the future is, imagination, I don't know, but the kids are the future, even if they're not real. I mean, whatever it is, yeah, they are still children, and they are the future. And my daughter is 28; she wants to have children. We're discussing. I mean, people want to go on, you know. So that's, I think, but the past. Yeah.
Because climate crisis, we all die. Our future is not good.
Well, the climate crisis is, my dear, is on the one side, think of the earth, and that doesn't depend on us. We cannot change it. But on the other side, it is also that, like in Iowa, I've heard at a Dane family farm picnic, which was wonderful, by somebody who works in the energy supplies in this particular state of Iowa, that it's 11% more energy production needed every year only because of storage of of our WhatsApp communication and our pictures that we put in Instagram, because they put all of these here or in Iceland or somewhere. So I mean, it's also kind of what we do all the time to kind of stop a little bit of it. Sorry, I'm stopping.
I was just wondering, like, I think we all know that. I think the real question is how...
But we don't change.
Yeah,
Why
because
do we not
the real question is how we do it. I think that's the main issue that should be addressed.
I don't think we know it. If we really know something, you do something about it. I don't think we know it. Knowing is like just we've maybe heard it. We don't know it because you know with the heart. You don't know with the... Okay.
Do I get the option to change my question?
I just want to... First, let's hear from some other people, I think. Yeah.
Senka, I wanted to know, because of your history of coming from Bosnia, you have gone through some form of political emancipation, though not probably as fully fulfilled as you would have people there wanted. So how important is, and right now in Ukraine, you are going through that, you know, you're looking for some kind of a political emancipation settlement with Russia. But how important is political emancipation as far as emotional emancipation is there ultimately? And you seem to suggest, in a way, literature comes to your rescue. Can you talk about it?
When I wrote it, when I said that last thing, I wasn't really sure, is that the comfort, or is it like the deepening of the feeling of doom? We just kind of know this constantly and constantly, but like maybe it's confirming that life would never be really well. Okay, let's say if you're talking about Bosnia or Ukraine, war in Ukraine is going to finish one day. I mean, definitely, most likely. Hope so. Okay. But also, like, many problems are going to remain. And I think those problems that remain after any kind of conflict, they're not typical for the nations that conflicts happen in. It's more, I think, about the human nature. Because, like, if you think about US, I think the main reason US faces many issues. I'm sure you're aware of that much more than I am. But you don't have it like escalating to a point of no return as war would be or something similar, because you have all this system that's been developing for years. Then again, I live in a turbulent part of the world, like almost every war, at least like First World War started there, and then it was involved in the second one, and then we had our Bosnian war, like our war, as we call it, because it belongs to my generation. And I think the problem is, like, if you don't have any systems in place, not saying that any of those systems are good, I think the problem is it's almost impossible to fix something, because, like, by fixing one thing, the other one is getting broken. And then again, there is a human nature. And people, I'm really sorry to say this, and I really always hope it's different. I approach everyone differently, but people in general are not really nice. Everyone's really scared and really, I think, insecure, which makes them selfish and gives them the feeling of entitlement. And I think that's the problem. For me, the main problem is psychological one. And I think in the same circumstances, wherever this situation happened in the war, you would have the same consequences, because we deal with the same issues everywhere. None of us are nicer than the others.
That's the hope.
Hi, thank you, the three of you, for your powerful words. I really enjoyed them. My question for you is a very personal question. In terms of literature, what are your hopes and fears for the future?
Literature? In literature?
Literature.
I have no fears for literature.
Right now we have more writers than readers. It's one fear. No, it's true. And because with culture of entertainment, when people have many with games, more freedom. Oh, yes. No, in my part of the world, people got more freedom to go abroad. No, my parents had an opportunity when they were young to go abroad because they lived in USSR. And now people have more choice, and they not always choose with literature. I don't know if it's good or bad. Or in future we'll have different kinds of literature. But people live in words. No, all people live in words. With second science system.
Circumstances.
Yes,
yeah.
yes. We can, now in our present, we can't go out from words and our thinking in words. Every person here with voice in her head. And that's why people need to tell story, and the future of literature will be okay, but this literature can be not written. It can come back to this oral form like it was in Homer, these things, I don't know. And, but I'm sorry, I can return to my favorite topic of crisis of love. But I see this from time and time, that we have crisis with love. Not only in our society, no, in different society, in our world, but in literature. I can't remember poem about love which touched me for for about 20 years. Why? For me, it's very connecting things with crisis of many things and love, because I want to find. I don't write about love. My attempts like this, war, blah blah blah, all bad. But I know people who can write about love good, but I don't see in their poetry something new for me, new language. How I feel, how I think. I don't see myself in the mirror of their language. I don't know why. It's a beautiful task for literature. I don't know.
Well, I myself, I'm not afraid of anything coming in literature. When I was very young, I was meeting small societies like ours on the Balkans, allow that we meet very quickly as young people all the prominent writers. And I was very often a guest at Blaga Dimitrova's house, and she would say, as a writer, you can have an amazing amount of audience, but in the end, you move the heart and the metabolism. You change the metabolism of very little amount of people with your writing. And if you manage to all your life to do it for one school class, like teachers do, then you have done a good job. So if 30 people in my life read and my work changed their metabolism in some way and made them kind of be happier and solve problems easier, whatever, I'm okay. So I don't need that it's thousands of readers. But I mean, so I'm not afraid that we have less readers. And I think it's also not dangerous that more people write, because writing is a way of putting things clearly in your mind. So it's very good that actually you have more educated society and more people write, because they're thinking about things and putting them down, formulating is already going on. And telling a story is already communicating with somebody, even if it's only one person. So I'm not afraid about literature. I'm afraid of what Senka was saying, actually, the essence of what I was talking in my talk, that it's actually how we manage to somehow develop the human nature to be able to cope with all that we have developed as means of technology, whatever, so that we understand more our emotions, our selfishness, our self kind of showing all the time, like Sebexionistic feeling and willing to be so important, which all comes from the fear of death, and all is maybe to be kind of solved through love. So I think we actually are talking all the time the same thing, and the point is, if literature can help all this, no matter how we do it, and all literature helps to understand somebody else, because we have no ability. I don't know how men feel. I don't know how you feel. I mean, we're so limited. So literature is always very, very good. And it comes also in images. It comes in, I mean, a lot of, you have, in order even to have to put an image, you already have some kind of a poem in your head. I mean, it's like, it's not that images just come without words. They're sometimes very synthesized part of words that we think. So.
Senka, did you want to add anything to that?
I was actually going to say something.
No, and I remember some conversation from this teacher from Marić, from Ukraine, and she said that now children have problems with analyze information, that people lose this. Our time is very quickly. No, all know this word when where I was born was very slowly, if we compare. And now we are so busy. We have these gadgets, messengers, social medias, blah 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 blah, and people lost this habit to read slowly, to stop time and understand which they are really need. And literature is not a great priority for many people. And no, this is no something. I don't know. It's not bad. It's reality.
I think we had a hand back here.
Well, thank you all so much for reading and sharing. And I'd like to hear you share like outside of your texts, and like I have an interest of getting to know you all as like writers a little bit more. So I wrote down like 2 questions with the topic that they're kind of connected. So I'm curious, like, what small hope, if any, are you like personally holding on to when you are thinking about the future? Because I left the 3 readings like really like heavy and in a reflective stupor. So I'm just curious, like, if there is like a small glimmer and what that looks like for you all individually. And then as you were engaging with the topic, what is the responsibility of you as a writer to inspire or engage with optimism to build this better future?
Okay, well, let's answer the first one first. Well, I think I'm horrible. I guess, again, I was going to say we don't really know anything. I guess you understand my position. I really believe we can hardly know anything about anything. But we can feel, and I think that's the most important thing. And then it's about feeling for me and sharing yourself, your time, your life, your love with your family, with your friends, with the people you meet in your life. So that's, to me, the point when all the sense comes. And the other part was about like, responsibility. I actually don't feel any responsibility. I mean, I write for very selfish reasons because I enjoy it. I write what I feel and the stories that I find interesting and the questions I want to explore. And it's beautiful that people like to read it and like engage with my work. But I don't really like to take that kind of responsibility because it would, I guess, in a way, assume that I know some answers. And I never want to say that because I really don't. All I want to do is maybe try to ask the right questions.
Yeah. I mean, this is absolutely... Marvelous said that actually I think we as writers, we kind of transform ourselves into questions all the time. And I mean, for me personally, I actually have very simple hopes, and they're related to the health of the family. I mean, they have nothing to do with big issues. I very much hope that I will survive to see that the war in Ukraine ends, because it was all my life fighting for some Eastern European democracy. And then in the end, like after you've done so many decades of work on that, and then you see that it comes again to the beginning when you were a child, and it's a horrible feeling. Exactly because we don't know. I think that we should understand more our feelings, so that's why I talk about emotion and not emotional knowledge. We should know more about why we are like we are in order to be able to communicate better with each other and make that every person, I think, is actually Homo sapiens and Homo ludens both, but as a humanity, we are not that. Which is very interesting for me, because to the contrary,
we're running out of time, so I want to give you a chance to weigh in.
No, in global sense, I agree with Senka and Tzveta, because I'm not an agent of politician power. What I can change, no, on this level. But today, I remember 2 things. Today, it was started Rosh Hashanah. And I always keep in my mind this very famous quote from Talmud: if you can save one life, you can save all the world. I give out all my money from honorarium, job, no, only for food and this rent. I live for me, to front, to our army, to our people, because I hope that perhaps my money can save something's life. Even for one day, but in this day, this guy can kiss his wife. At last, for example. And other very religious thing, it's from Jewish religion tradition too, that after our death, we will go not to this, paradise? Not paradise. Paradise?
Heaven, yeah.
To the heaven, okay. Heaven. And this heaven will be the place in which we lived while we were here. This word, which we are created while we're here, will be our heaven. And when you keep this thing in your mind, this very childish face, but you can change everything. All points are children. We believe in this word, that we can't change anything, but it's a very good feeling. And if you believe that every your word, every your, act, smile can change something, you can have this very childish chance to this good life here and above.
It's a wonderful place to end. Thank you so very much.